Okay, this is going to be about arc welding. And all you can see right now is the welding screen, which is a curtain that pulls open to the booth. You should close that curtain even though you're going to be in here by yourself. Doesn't hurt to close it while you're in here. What you see in here is our welder, our welding table, and the rack for the tools. Because I can't show you that, move the camera well to show you that. I'll show you what's on the tool rack right here. The welding hood will be there. You'll have a brush and a chip hammer and a tray, and most of these will have a what's like a quiver for arrows, but it's for the welding rods. So you'll be using these. You'll be using the welding hood that auto darkens. Although I'm not sure I'm going to use it in my demonstration, just to show you that it can be done without an auto darkening lens. Okay, what we've got out here, so that's my hat, which I don't need. I'll put on for a second. This is a hat given to some of us by Sinclair, the people that make those nice little labels that go on fruit. Okay, you've got your welding rods. I'll have them out here. If you run out, you will be able to get more. There's a, you'll see a big round green oven, and you can open it up and you can get your rods out of there. The difference is you can obviously see, hopefully you can see some color differences. But I've got two of each of these kind of rods. And down at the end, it prints out which rod it is. This is 6013, 6011, 7014, and 7013. That number means it has certain qualities about whether it's good for, some of these rods are good for welding up, some are good for welding down. All these are good for welding down. Some get deeper penetration, meaning the metal melts faster and quickly. But those are the ones you're going to be working with. I'll put out two of each type in the welding station that you'll be using. We've got 6 welding stations, so since we're not going to be going 6 days a week, even if we go every day, somebody will, it will be 7 days before you're going to use the booth that you'd be assigned to. The way you'll find your assignment is you'll see the booth with the welding rods out and the auto darkening lens hanging on the wall. So I'll have a pair of pliers out for you, and the brush and chip hammer you'll need a little bit later. I'll have some scrap pieces of metal out here for you to practice with. It probably will have been welded on. That's okay. Welding, you can weld over a weld. A weld is a piece of, is just a piece of steel on top of a piece of steel, into a piece of steel. And I'll have the blank pieces that you'll need to make your parts. Okay, let me show you the welder. Set for DC plus, which is actually reverse. Yeah. Anyway, don't worry. You can. This is all explained on the Canvas site in PowerPoints and videos. Turns out these rods are chosen because they can all operate on the same current setting. Some better than others, but that's also part of what I want you to get. If you needed to change it, you would turn it on and change it. If you need to change the polarity, it's got to be off. But when it's on is when you would change the current setting. But these all work at about 100 amps DC. The only thing that you're going to have to deal with on the machine is the start and the stop button. Attached to this machine are the cables that you're going to need. One looks a little bit like a clamp that you would put to charge your car. In fact, if you get a little welder from Home Depot, it will probably be a battery charging clamp. That clamp goes on the end of this metal plate. That will now electrify the entire plate so that when we put our piece of metal on it, forgot to move the camera to it, and let me get this other stuff out of the way. You can see it. You're going to attach this clamp to the metal plate. That energizes the entire metal plate, so when we have a piece of material on it, it will also be energized, because this is an electricity process. And by the way, you can take your rods and put them either in the quiver or in the little tray that you saw. The other clamp, if you look carefully, you won't be able to see it, I don't think, from the video, but it has several little grooves in it to hold the stick. This metal part you want to connect, it may not look like it, but these parts are copper, so it's going to make a nice connection with the steel rod, and you can even, if you look carefully, you can find ways that you can set this in to hold them at different angles. You don't want to hold it at an angle, you want to hold it straight. How this works is, if I had this on, and when it turns on it'll be loud, so I'm going to explain it right now, and then in a minute we'll turn it on and you can see it actually work. If I were to actually touch the end of this, because the steel is bare at this end and connected here, and it all goes through the machine, if I turn this on, I will touch it to this, I will have a complete circuit. Electricity will flow, but it won't weld. What I have to do is have the piece just a little bit away. I'm going to have it about an 1/8 of an inch away. Just a little bit away, and then it will actually, that air gap will cause the resistance through that air gap, melts the steel, melts the rod. So you're going to you want to get it just a little bit away. The problem is that it will not actually start until you actually make contact, but if you make contact for too long, it's just going to stick in place. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this across the metal that we're going to weld on just a little bit to create the spark, then move to the right place, and then take our time and move along. The other thing that you want to do is you don't want to be straight up. You want to have a little bit of an angle to it. 30, 60, 40, no more than 45, a little less than 45. This is one of those things that as you get into it, you learn exactly what that angle is. This is not a class where I want you to make great welds. Making welds like this is okay if you've never welded before. Now, if you have, I want to see some really nice stuff like what I showed you before. And the other part of this is how fast do you move it along. You want to go slow enough that you're gonna get your bead laid down. If you go too fast, you've got a problem. You have on the Canvas site, which you should look at before, and maybe even bring your laptop in and look at it, and I'll have a copy of it here. A picture of 6 different welds, one saying you're in too close, one saying you're too far away, and what a bad weld with that being the problem looks like. One saying that if you go too fast, one saying if you go too slow, one saying that the angle's not right. So look at that page, and once you do your practice welds, look at that page and go, oh, don't have the angle right, or I'm going too fast. And you can diagnose what your weld situation is like. All right, let's do some welding.